Abe, give me an example of what it would sound like if you were to pledge allegiance to the Islamic State, and we'll go from there.
Right. That's what I'm going to do.
Podcast that is all done shoveling snow. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
Good.
Lori is good. Tonight is Tuesday, January 7th, 2024. Recording on a Tuesday tonight.
Not quite.
Oh, fuck. It's 2025, isn't it?
There we go.
Happy New Year, Abe.
Yes, Happy New Year. I mean, it's 7 days in. I think Larry David has a rule, like after 3 days, that's it. No more New Year's.
Yeah, but we haven't gotten together for such an enjoyable chit-chat since it switched over to the new year, so I'm obligated.
Right. I think you have all of January because it's Chinese New Year.
Oh, is that right? I mean, the first 20 days, I have a note thing that I do at work. Every day I just jot down what I need to do, which is usually not much, but I have to put down the date, and I have to consciously remember it's 25, and then my memory will be like, okay, muscle memory will kick in on the 21st of January, and from that point on. But the first 20 days, I need to consciously put 2025.
Yeah.
I always have no problem with the odd years. These feel better.
Oh, really?
The even ones I don't want to do.
All right. Well, forgive me. 2025, we are a day behind our regular Monday recording schedule because the Charlottesville area, along with much of the Mid-Atlantic, got something of a snowstorm on Sunday night into Monday morning. I got 5-6 inches of snow around here, maybe. And I was outside. I'm old now, but I'm considerably younger than all of our immediate neighbors, which includes the lady next door, the folks across the street, and across the street in the other direction to a lesser extent. But I feel this neighborly obligation to shovel the walk, not just my own walk, which is my civic responsibility, to the point where apparently the city can come out and be like, hey, you asshole, you didn't shovel a walk. Here's a ticket.
This is an enforceable civic responsibility.
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you probably – I don't think it's a ticket that they write very often, is my guess.
Right.
But technically I'm in charge of keeping that portion of the sidewalk in front of my property passable, and leaving it covered in snow and ice does not meet those responsibilities. So
I assume that it's enforced whenever the person writing the ticket is inconvenienced by it. Right.
Fuck this. Or some busybody calls up and says something about it.
Yeah.
But you have, I think it's officially, you have 24 hours from the end of the snowfall to clear the area. So I was out there certainly well before that deadline was approaching.
Too much before, because it snowed again.
Yeah, just a little bit of
Oh, you jumped the gun
afterwards.
on the snow. You gotta, there's a science to it, Bob. You gotta wait for the whole thing.
I did. I waited until...
It was not wrong. It just technically wasn't
There
done.
was a little bit of a dusting that followed after my...
it would have been too late.
My lengthy physical exertion. And yeah, if I had waited until after that portion of the snowfall...
Dark.
It would have been dark. It would have been even colder. The snow would have been even heavier and less pleasant to move along. Anyway, the point is that there's a lot of sidewalk that I covered, and also driveway square footage. And by the time I got done, it was approaching, 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I came inside, just fucking everything hurt. I was bent over. Nothing felt good. I was sweaty.
This is all manual labor, right? That there's no
yes.
It's not like a mowing the lawn thing where there's some sort of machine.
It's just a shovel. Just a shovel, and you take the oversized shovel and you fill it with heavy, wet snow, and then just move it somewhere else. Right? It's just, I'm gonna take this here, I'm gonna put it over there. I'm gonna do that for 4 hours. Yeah, it's fun. It feels good to do, to get out there and help your neighbors and do that sort of thing. But I realized that there was a 0% chance that I was going to be able to sit.
I don't think you've ever decided something that quickly.
Yeah, I like
ever.
I'm
Like
gonna
ever.
sit in a chair and like try to talk about stuff for 2 or 3 hours after this. I don't think so. It is time to.
It wasn't 5 minutes after he sat down that he was like, I don't think I can do a show.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow. Because normally he would let it go, sort of see how he feels, read reviews on Amazon. Just normally you take a long time to make a decision about something that you had the answer to right away. You just decided to let it take longer.
One of the neighbor ladies tried to give me money, and I shooed her away. I was like, I'm not taking your money, right?
Yeah.
This is not for money. This is because I would feel bad if I didn't do it, right? Like that.
Right.
Yeah. Also, it's nice to do something nice for your elderly neighbors who can't probably do it themselves or shouldn't be doing it themselves, even if they can.
Right.
And then I was similarly, after I finished the old lady immediately next to us and her fucking sidewalk, because she's on a corner lot. So she doesn't just have she has well more than double of the sidewalk length than we do, because our lot is just a lot, faces front, right, and then the street just goes by, whereas hers stretches from the end of our lot all the way around the corner to the other end. And so like a full half of her property is exposed to the sidewalk. So I did that for her. And then I'm looking across the street, and the guy who lives over there, who in previous years, by the time that I would get done with my responsibilities and also the lady next door, he would have been well done, right? Like he's an older guy, but like he always had the energy to like, I don't need to help him. He's getting the job done. And maybe if at the very end, I might go like 5 minutes and try to help him polish things off. He was working in the fashion of like, I see him shovel, and then I would look up, and for extended periods of time, he would just be sitting on his front porch in a chair holding the shovel. It's like, this guy is wiped out. It's like there's no way he's going to get any meaningful amount of this stuff done. So I went across the street and I started working on his. And the lady who lives there with him comes outside, and she's like, "Can I pay you to shovel our driveway and our sidewalk?" I was like, "No, I'm just going to go until I can't go anymore. I'm happy to do it. It's fine, but I'm not going to take any of your money." And so I continue doing the work, and I do the driveway next to theirs, or the sidewalk next to theirs, and dig out the spot where the car would go, because the fucking plow comes by and it shoves like just a normal amount of snow, and now all of a sudden there's a plow's amount of snow that has been shoved into this person's driveway. So I do that. As I'm finishing up, she comes out and she hands me a card, and she's like, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to take any, like, I don't want any money. And she's like, no, this isn't any money for the snow shoveling. This is a Christmas card, and you can't turn down a Christmas card.
Oh, there you go.
And so she'd taken a Christmas card and put some money inside and said, for you and your family, have a happy new year. It's like, God damn it. Like, yes, on a technicality, I cannot turn down this money now, because that would be shitty.
Smart woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we're older, you going to let someone just shovel our driveway?
No, I will die. I will have a heart attack and die while shoveling the sidewalk instead.
Are you the two-part question? Are you like the only able-bodied like person in that stretch of the neighborhood? Like,
so the people who live next door to the people across the street are roughly our age, but I didn't see them outside hardly at all. And then the guy, my other next door neighbor, is the Russian who nobody ever talks to, and we don't see for like 6 months at a time. So who the fuck knows what's going on with that guy? So the answer is basically yes. I am the only person. I mean, within 30 years or so, I would say.
Wow.
Right? Like the next door neighbor on the one side is like in her 90s. The other folks across the street are in their mid to late 70s, I would guess.
How and the second part, like how old do you think that guy that like did a little bit but he kind of got exhausted pretty quickly, is he like in the 50, 60, 70? Like,
he might be 70. He might be pushing 70. I don't know how old.
Oh, wow.
In his
70.
70s probably.
Okay. That's pretty good. Pretty good run.
Yeah. I will say though, after doing all of that work, I go out there this morning, and like you expect the snowplows to do their dirty work of when they come by in the morning, and they take what you have done and they sort of ruin it. You dug your driveway out, snowplow comes by, fresh pile of snow. You've got to go dig your driveway out again, right? That's fine. The snowplow somehow, and I am not one who's quick to conspiracy thinking. I don't think. Generally, I go out there this morning. It's not just that a fresh roll of snow, as moved by a snowplow, has covered the end of our driveway. It's that the giant mound of snow that I built next to the driveway, right? So, like, I shovel off the sidewalk and I shovel off our area. And I built two giant mounds on either side of the driveway. So there's a left mound and a right mound if you're facing the street from our driveway. The right mound had been moved. A full 8 feet of mound had been cleared along the curb and pushed directly in front of our driveway.
Oh, wow.
So that
it's like the plow clipped just a chunk of it and pushed.
Except that it cleared 8 feet of curb, so that there was 8 clear feet of curb.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
As though he were making specific room for my trash can and my recycling bin, because what he cleared out was the exact amount of space that I need to put out my recycling bin and my trash can next to each other, as though he were doing me that sort of a solid. The problem is that instead of pushing it further down that way, away from my driveway, he instead cleared that 6 or 8 feet of space and pushed the giant mound of snow just right into the center of the driveway, like right where I had specifically cleared out. It's like, what sort of an asshole? Like, what? I just stood there and looked at it for like 5 minutes. Like, what? How? Like, and I'm looking around like, is there a prank? Am I the victim of some sort of is there going to be a person with a camera? Like some TikTok youth with floppy hair is going to come around the corner and be like, we got you. Here's $150 just because we're awesome. And then we're going to move the snow for you too. Haha, see you later. That's what I see with these so-called prank videos on the internet sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
But no youth with a bad haircut appeared, and I just had to take my giant ice pick that I bought a few years ago, and like it's just a flat-headed shovel basically, and slowly chonk away at the mound of ice that I created yesterday, and then shovel it off back to where I put it yesterday. It was very frustrating.
Wow, but you guys are done with the snow now. It's
yeah.
I mean, there's still snow left. Right?
There's still snow left, but yeah, it's all gross and disgusting now.
Yeah, it's gonna refreeze. We'll be seeing this snow for a while.
Did the city shut, like all the schools and everything? Was everything shut down?
They're never going back
anyway.
to school. They were schools were closed on Monday anyway as a teacher work day because
there's testing.
You had the whole fucking last 3 weeks basically off. You better give them one more day. And then they shut it down today. And then we got a text at like 5 o'clock this afternoon that said, no school tomorrow either because fuck it.
The roads are not great.
The roads aren't great because there's not enough sun to really dry the roads out in the in-between, and whatever, the melt happens and then the freeze happens again.
It's melted, but it's not dried.
No. So yeah, no school. This was a couple of years ago, maybe.
It was 3 years ago.
They were supposed to go back to school, and they missed the whole first week back, I think.
Yep.
Combination of weather and COVID stuff, I think.
Yeah, it was just weather. That was the week that everyone lost power for a week. Yeah. Except us.
We were lucky. We haven't lost it. We didn't really lose power. We lost power.
We did.
Waking up on Monday morning.
We'd stayed up nice and late the night before.
And at 7, because Lori requires us to sleep with the sound machine, and I have now become a person who's highly reliant upon the white noise sound machine to keep me asleep after a fucking decade of having a sound machine, sleeping with Lori. And
I need the people to know I hadn't slept well my whole life. My whole life. Horrible insomnia for my whole life until like the last few years when I've sort of figured it out.
But I figured it out.
The sound machine.
Roughly
the sound machine fixed that? Really?
No. Listen, Abe.
It's a lot.
The sound machine was one step in a 19-step process of finding how to sleep for Lori.
The sound machine started with the baby. It was for Calvin.
Yeah, we first got a sound machine because what we wanted to do was we wanted to take a fresh human and say, listen, the only way that you can ever get any rest for the rest of your life is we're going to acculturate you into sleep by maintaining that fuzzy womb noise that you've been in for the last 9 months or so.
Also, the sound machine was nice. No, stop.
Right?
Stop.
Like that. That's what it sounds like in the womb.
No, stop it. It's because when you have
account?
a sound machine, you can be adults and have conversation outside the baby's room without waking up the baby.
Okay.
All right. So we get the sound machine for the infant. Then all of a sudden, because the infant slept in our room for the first
2 years.
Year or two, we kept the crib
Until we had another one.
Yeah, kept the crib. Right. So we had. That's right. So we got the new baby, and the sound machine has to stay for the new baby also. And then even after the kids leave, then it's like, well, now I'm used to the fucking sound machine, and of course.
No, we had it through the baby. You don't know anything. We had the sound machine for the baby.
Christ almighty.
And then we had the sound machine in the toddler's room with the monitor. So we would get the sound through the monitor.
Okay, but why we didn't need a second sound machine for our room because we had a sound machine by proxy in our room for the new infant also, right?
Because that's what I'm saying.
Right. So what do you mean I don't know anything? We had the sound machine in our room for fucking 3 years because we have an infant living in our room for the entirety of 3 straight years, right? So by the time the last child moves out and into her brother's room, it's now, well, we can't really do this without the sound machine one way or another.
We also had the
plus we had the baby monitor going, right? So whatever. The point is that the sound machine was just one step in an ever-evolving process of Lori figuring out how to sleep. And she adds something to her sleeping process on a very regular basis.
Very regular? How often?
She has a sleeping robe.
How often do I add a step?
She has a
very regular.
She has a sleep mask as well. She cannot sleep but in total darkness.
I only have a sleep robe when it's cold.
There's always something new being added to Lori's sleep repertoire to the point where eventually I don't know what the end game is here. But
sleep is the end game. Falling asleep.
Well, the end game is dead. You'll be eventually you'll figure out all of the things required for you to just be dead. But anyway, the point is that we've raised soft children who require very specific circumstances for them to go to sleep in, and I'm against it. I think that of all of the mistakes that we've made as parents, my character flaws being numerous and the things that I pass on to them being plentiful, I think the way that we have made them weak in terms of being able to just like close your eyes and go to sleep is going to be a problem for them
so
moving forward.
Insomnia for them.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, like Lori, you just had that issue your whole life? It wasn't like something
My whole life.
So I had like the opposite problem. Like I could sleep under any conditions, right? And so like it's not amazing all the time because like I just would fall asleep randomly. But like it's not like my parents have some sort of regimen. Like you have to like figure out how to sleep under any condition. It just kind of happened. Like how much?
Well, no, you had a nightmare youth with like fucking 8 siblings or something, right? And you're moving from country to country. You're not even together with the family half the time. This is just survival at that point. Your body says, "Oh, time to rest. Better fucking do it because who knows what tomorrow brings."
Get your sleep while you can. But like you think like today the only thing that I have I did not realize that I grew dependent on it until recently a few years ago. But like I sleep with a fan on,
right?
Just kind
of similar. Also a noise machine, effectively.
Yeah, basically in effect, yeah. So like it's I guess if I didn't use it, I mean even in the winter I have it on. It's just kind of this thing. I bet you everybody has some sort of like sleep habit thing that they do.
Yeah, and I need my children to I need to do like a Navy SEAL sleep campaign on them where I force them to sleep like upside down while being waterboarded, to make them strong and able to sleep moving forward.
Right. Although the noise machine can be had at any time. So, like, what sort of scenario do you envision that you will have failed them as a parent?
The fucking apocalypse, or just not having electricity for a few nights in a row, in which case there won't be any sound sleep because like you just hear everything. People who live in this city get accustomed to like all of the loud city noises, and then they go out in the country and they freak the fuck out because like it's way too quiet. And all they hear is the occasional bird or howling owl or what have you.
Crickets and house moving and everything.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a long diatribe. I said this was going to be a fast one. I guess. Abe, it's a new year. You're a big resolutions guy. Have you? So regale the people with your 2025 New Year's resolutions.
I don't have any resolutions beyond just like watch movies and read books and like travel. But that's like every year. It's like a every year kind of thing. So nothing new on that front. I did want to mention last week, me and some friends, we went to a New Year's Eve shindig.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
And so like so they had a 2-tier price thing. Like, so they had the regular price to get in, and then for like $50 more, there's like a VIP. And I was like, I'm not paying VIP for this stupid thing. You're just in a room and they're playing music. What's the VIP like? And so we went in there, and like they needed a way to differentiate between the regular schlubs and the VIP.
Right.
And they had like, you can get like one extra fancy drink. So that's like one reason why you should get a VIP.
All right. So and that's, I don't know, $10 or $15 maybe value $20. So far?
Yeah. And then, this is a big place. I've been there before. And they have multiple bathroom areas. And so basically they cordon off one bathroom area.
Ooh.
Nice.
For VIP.
Smart.
And so, like, if you got to pee, you can't use these urinals. These are VIP. You got to pay for these urinals here. But you can walk just a few yards or, just not very long to this other set of bathrooms. And that was like I bet you should have thought about getting VIP tickets now, huh? Like, you can't come here. Like,
was it a disproportionate number of VIP toilets relative to general public toilets? Like, was there any line that you had to deal with that they wouldn't? It was just VIPs only access sort of situation where it's a little bit more convenient to the dance floor or what have you.
There was, I guess it's a little closer to the dance floor, right? So I guess you have that advantage. If you're just like cutting a rug and you're like, I need to get back out there, it's like a NASCAR driver. You got to get in and out very fast. So like, but the other bathroom was right there. There was like really no upside, and there was like no wait for either the VIP or the regular line.
Are you sure there wasn't some sort of VIP attendant inside the VIP restroom?
Giving blowjobs?
Yeah.
Well, there was they actually had a dedicated person making sure that only VIPs used it, Because I went there, I was like, hey, the bathroom's right there. Because I wanted to test the system. I was like,
wristbanding you to get into the VIP bathroom.
Because like last year there was like a book that I was reading, The Velvet Rope Economy, how like everything's getting fucked because of these stupid at the airports and you got to pay to get through the pre-TSA thing. Like everything is becoming this thing where you pay a little more for like a better experience. So I was like, there's no way they're going to enforce this bathroom thing. And they're like, hey, let me see your wrist. Oh, you have a blue wristband. Oh, fuck off. You got to go down there.
Was that it? Was it just bathrooms and one extra drink?
That was the only thing I could do. There was nothing else. It's not like they're like, avert your ear during this song. This is an exclusive. Like, there's nothing else you could do. Did
you interact with any of the VIPs?
Well, a couple of my friends won like VIP. That's the reason why we went to this place. My friends said, "Oh, it's free tickets," and they made the rest of us pay. And so they had access to it, but I don't remember them being like, "Oh boy, my bladder is empty all the time." Like there wasn't like. It was just
was it fun?
It was. I remember leaving at 12:40. Like it was like. We got there, had my beers, and we listened to some music. We was talking to some of the friends, and like soon after the midnight stuff, I was like, "This is good enough. I can fuck off now. And
Did you get your?
It was nice.
Did you get your money's worth though? You pay the big door price.
So I think the morning after I was recounting, I was like, the math did not work out. I think it was like $100 some odd after the fees and everything, and it was like 5 beers. And so like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. You should have when a couple of friends win the VIP tickets and then demand that everyone else come. This is an opportunity to add up the total cost and then divide by the number of
Abe's
people
friends?
going.
You think Abe's friends will do that?
This is how you. If you want your fucking friends to come to the place where you got free tickets, you've got to be willing to chip in and defray costs here.
So the way that it worked out was that the people that got the VIP tickets that were for free, they were from bumfuck, out of the area. So they got a hotel nearby. So they paid.
They fucking paid one way or another. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, everybody paid a little. Yeah. But
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's see. Any resolutions to talk about here?
I have 2.
Lori's got resolutions.
I'm going to learn to make bread. I'm going to start with white bread. I'm going to make a king cake this month. I'm going to learn to make bread this year. I'm going to get good at making bread, different kinds. And also keep track of exactly what I'm watching.
Didn't you do that last year?
No, last year I was keeping track of movies. And the goal was to watch more movies, which I think I watched more movies last year. But this year, not just movies, fucking everything. I don't have to be so specific. Like we watched YouTube last night. I don't have to say exactly what. Yeah. But if I watch a sports game, that. If I watch a show on the treadmill, that. Keep track of everything.
I think that you should also keep track of every single, including we watched the World's Smartest Dog.
We watched
YouTube
the World's Smartest
video.
Dog and the fucking crow. You should put the crow video in the show notes because that was incredible.
Mark Rober, the YouTube NASA engineer guy, who is famous for making exploding glitter bombs with fart spray so that he would teach the porch pirates a lesson when they would steal the Amazon packages off of his front porch. Had a run-in with some crows stealing his DoorDash off of his front porch and didn't appreciate it. But he wanted to see how intelligent these crows were. And he also had a fun one with squirrels where he was trying to see how smart and adaptive squirrels are to problem solving and figuring out puzzles. So he set up a puzzle room for a crow, and it is one of the most amazing things, 22 minutes, that I can remember watching. And this fucking crow does escape room puzzles, and it's
really.
I might not be able to have done.
I'm pretty sure my kids would not have gotten out of this escape room or gotten to the Chick-fil-A at the center of the puzzle box that the crow was able to work its way through.
Really incredible.
And it makes me mad. It's why does the crow know to do the thing, or why does it want to do the next thing? What in the world is going on in this fucking bird's brain? The brain is literally the size of a walnut or a grape, and yet it knows water displacement theory. Where
water displacement isn't even the surprising thing. You should just watch the video.
Yeah.
Is this the Albert Einstein of crows, or did they just got some random crow just from wherever?
It's a particularly smart crow, but still.
But still.
It's just crow. Crows are smart, apparently. Anyway.
That's my New Year's resolution.
Nice.
My New Year's resolutions quickly are to, in terms of the show, we are going to, I resolve, at minimum, I'm going to guess that I put out 2 new, into the Cast Iron Brains feed, the main feed here. I will put out 2 new podcasts this year. In the same way that we did Cast Iron Balls, my guess is that I add to the...
A guess isn't a resolution. It's a
resolution, a guess, however you want to call it. I'm resolving to finally get my Philip K. Dick podcast into your feed, and then maybe also... So that would be called the Philip K. Dicksquisition. That's a sweet name for a podcast, by the way. That's coming. And then also the Fleshy Monocular podcast, in which I explore my favorite music or movies. Episodes of those coming this year. I hope we did, I forget, almost 150 hours of content, audio content that we put out last year. plan to exceed that in the coming year. Also, on a personal level, it's not so much a resolution as it is an attempt to build a new habit around my phone. And of course, I talk about this all the time. And I recently, a month or so ago, I guess now, I deleted Twitter. And I interact with the phone a little bit less because of that. But of course, I found other distractions on the phone as I sort of expected. I do think that deleting Twitter was a net positive. I think Twitter's a fucking nightmare, and I don't miss it once it was deleted off the phone. But I want to be better about just leaving my phone like on the nightstand, like next to the bed, like or pick a spot in the house and leave it there. And the intention being to reduce the amount of time specifically that I am interacting with the phone when I am around my family and especially my kids. That I don't want to be looking at the screen as much when I'm around the kids. And that's just, I mean, I think the reasons for that probably speak for themselves for the most part. But just as a way of being more present in things that are meaningful and important to me rather than things that are immediately gratifying to me in terms of the brain chemicals and looking at the stupid screen and then having nothing to fucking show for it afterwards, right? Like just no idea what it was that I was even looking at when I wasn't engaged with the children in the room. So that's one. And then on that same token, as a way of both breaking the habit but also having something else to do with that extra attention is, and I've thought about this for a couple of years now, and at various times the kids and we've like read books together or otherwise had a habit of we're going to play chess or we're going to play some other game. Like we're going to take 30 minutes and do something together. And I've thought about there's a paucity, there's an ignorance in them because they don't go to church about the Bible, which I know as somebody who is sort of adamantly opposed to religious indoctrination and dogmatism and certainly forcing those sorts of things on the next generation. I was fortunate to some extent to grow up Catholic because it gave me that access to that sort of cultural wellspring of fucking everything, right? Like the Abrahamic religions are all of that book that I had lessons in on a weekly basis for my entire childhood, right? My kids don't know the story of the Good Samaritan. My kids don't know the story of Noah's Ark. And they're confused whenever something is referenced, like David and Goliath. What does the story of David and Goliath even mean to my children? I'm not sure they even know what that is, right? Like one of the most foundational sort of cultural touchstones that you can come up with. And it's because we haven't engaged with it at all. And so I want to do some sort of secular Bible study with my children in the same way that you might do with like the works of Shakespeare or like we read the Chronicles of Narnia a few years ago or like anything. But it seems like, or the Greeks, like you might learn about Greek myth in the same fashion, right?
Right.
In the same way, like I didn't have that education. So I've always found myself largely mystified whenever somebody starts talking about the Greeks. Like I didn't have that background until much, much later. And still it's nothing that I like. When somebody mentions one of the Greek gods, it's like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. And I have to look it up to figure out the references. It shouldn't be that way. Like I should have already, but I will now endeavor to impart upon my children the Bible stories because they are useful moral tools a lot of the time, and even when they're not, they're useful in their disutility, right? Like I can point to, well, isn't this is a fucked up thing that they're trying to convince you of in this moment, isn't it, children? And no, I'm not trying to indoctrinate you into believing one particular thing or another, but let's have this discussion, right? Like that seems like a worthwhile project that I would like to try out this year also.
That's actually a pretty good idea because basically if you think of it as like a knowledge base, like, you have this understanding and you can kind of navigate the world and interact with people without actually believing in any of this stuff.
Right.
In a few years, I'll do Buffy.
Right.
Which
I'll
is actually
do
not that different from that. Like, just, like the movies that you guys watch is for fun, but like they have this knowledge base of like all the stuff that we watched growing up. They're just kind of aware of it. It's not like you need to know this, but it's good. It's fun to know.
Right. And like you can't study literature or history without knowing the basics of the Bible one way or another, right? Like you've got to at least have some sort of grasp of those sorts of things. So that should be interesting. And that, like I've Googled a little bit looking around for this sort of curriculum where you're trying to get a Bible study, but not a dogmatic one, not an inherently religious one. And I'm sure that they exist. I'm not sure that they exist in a way that like I want to use. So maybe I'll create my own curriculum in that way.
And you can monetize that.
Yeah, or maybe that'll be a third podcast dropped
I'm
into
going
the
to make
feed.
less money this year than I have in a very long time.
Lori resolves to make less money this year. So brainiron.substack.com if you'd like to subscribe to this show. Certainly help. But yeah, should be a good 2025. Also, this is ironic, perhaps as we enter the 40-minute mark or so of this episode already without
Seriously, we have to skip all the news and go straight to the music.
Done anything. I would like to, back to the podcast side of the resolutions, I think that we can do a better job of, and by we, I of course mean keeping the episodes relatively short. Not so short as to be like 40 minutes and we're out. But maybe on the balls.
Although if you set your goal there.
On the balls side, maybe they could be that short on the regular basis. But getting over the 2-hour mark and heading towards 3 hours, as we occasionally do, is it's too much. And it just fills up too much of my day on the back end, where it's like trying to.
That can't be the mostly. Mostly, I'm annoyed.
Yeah, Lori is also annoyed to be here.
Because I have to go to work.
Longer than she wants to be. But also it ends up taking up more of my life than it deserves to take up in terms of the editing and actually putting the product out. So the shorter episodes, better prepared for. This will not be a great example, this beginning. But to be fair, this is a weird beginning of 2025 with the weather.
Kids still haven't gone back to school
yet. Kids haven't even back to fucking school yet. The resolutions don't count yet as far as I'm concerned until the kids have been back in school for a little bit. But tighter episodes with more frequency and more diversity.
How can I help?
And you can help by, believe it or not, harping at me to get on to the next thing is not the way to do it.
Okay, but I've tried not doing that.
Yeah.
And it goes way longer.
I don't know that it goes longer. You can look at the podcast lengths, and I think, if I'm being perfectly honest, no amount of hectoring helps me shorten or lengthen the episodes. You might even say it has virtually no impact whatsoever.
Okay, so how can I help?
I have no idea. It's sort of like, will I let somebody come and shovel my driveway when I'm an old man myself? The answer is probably not. There's probably nothing that anyone else can do for me to help me get the snow off my driveway, because I will be a stubborn asshole.
Also, it's time to talk about Strassman and do the music thing, because it's already been too long.
Well, there is no Strassman tonight. Strassman has been on the Jimmy Carter beat, and he only tells Jimmy Carter stories, and there have not been any good Jimmy Carter puns in any of the Mark Strassman Jimmy Carter stories, I'm afraid.
Speaking of Jimmy Carter, he's making the rounds. They're showing his... I did not see the open casket. They didn't do that. They had the flag, but he came by my neighborhood. Like, the Carter Center is like a stone's throw away from where I live. Yeah. And so when he came, or the procession came my way, basically the public can view it for like a day or two before they send them up to D.C. And so I went to stop by old Jimmy at the Carter Center, and they have these people, the military people from like each branch, and they
Abe, you went to gloat. Let's be honest. You didn't. This was not a paying of respects. This was you wanted to see if there was an open casket so that you may urinate upon the
how dare you
corpse of the former president.
I've always wanted to go to Richard Nixon's presidential library, but I was like, I can't go to another state to see a presidential library.
Where's that one? In California? Where's
in like Yorba Linda. It's like right outside of L.A. in California. But like, there's like a presidential library like right here. But then I have a made up rule of not going to a presidential library of somebody who's still alive. So I was like, once Jimmy Carter's done, then I'll go visit. I did that, and so now the path is open. Next time I'm in L.A., I'll stop by at the next place. But the Carter Center is pretty nice. They have a replica of the Oval Office during Jimmy Carter's time, and it looks very much like 70s era Oval Office.
You've been depriving yourself of the Carter Library all of this time because of an arbitrary rule you made up about not visiting.
Very important rule. What if he did something like, to tarnish his legacy, while he was still alive? So, like, now that he's dead, like, he can't, it's a cemented legacy. I can go there, no problem.
So you will also not visit the presidential libraries of presidents who you believe have tarnished their legacy?
No, just like while they're alive. It's like you got to be dead for me to go to.
So you don't want to. You wouldn't want to go visit the presidential library of a living president because that living ex-president might cover himself in shame in some way, which would reflect poorly upon you for having visited. This all checks out. This makes perfect sense. I'm convinced.
Now you get it. There you go.
Did you see in the news that Barack Obama had raised something like over $800 million recently for the Chicago Obama Presidential Library to come, or what have you?
No. Wow. Is that how much it goes for these days? I remember there was some issue of like the land. Like, I think they had to like elbow some people out of the way to make room. But I don't recall the money.
Oh, whatever. Now I'm only getting Joe Biden Presidential Library news. It doesn't matter. Obama raised a fuck ton of money, and apparently the Obama Library is going to cost like $1 billion fucking dollars out there in Chicago, which is just an obscenity. Wow, that's crazy. Anyway, all right. Real quick on the news of the last week or so, we woke up, and this will sort of scratch a little bit on the cast iron balls side of things as well. We wake up on January 1st to news of the terror attack in New Orleans, although as I'm scrolling through my news feed that early on January 1st, I am seeing that an FBI spokesman has already said that this was not being treated as a terror attack. Right. I did not catch that until led to much confusion after. Just a few hours later when another FBI spokesman said we are treating this as a terror attack. Was it not the same FBI person? I think it was two different people. Okay. I caught the Daily Show, the Jon Stewart one on Monday, and then he was showing clips of that fuck up. Okay, maybe it was the same person. Maybe I'm getting the FBI agents wrong, but it was like a black FBI agent both times. Like when they showed the clips, like early in the morning, and then like in the afternoon, where all those people were behind them, like the senator was there. Those people. Yes, but it was like a ridiculous amount of people in the background, like for that press conference. Like everybody who's like a politician in Louisiana was there. It was like it's a lot of people.
Well, it was a Sugar Bowl.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
Obviously a fucked up situation there. This guy rents a Ford F-150 Lightning, the super heavy version, because it's got the big old battery in it, and apparently had like staked out Bourbon Street a couple of times in the months previous and decided that this was what he wanted to do. It was, like I said, originally they were saying it was not being investigated as a terrorist incident, which is weird because immediately they had in their possession the truck and the flag that was inside the truck, the flag inside being an ISIS flag. Not sure if he made this flag or if he bought it. Where can you buy an ISIS flag in the United States? I assume you can probably get one on Amazon. I didn't check. But
what's that other one?
Like Temu or something?
Yeah, Temu.
Can you order one from China?
It is odd that they got ahead of themselves on two different fronts. Like one, as you say, not a terrorist issue Then they said, oh, it is a terrorist issue. And then they volunteered that we don't believe that this was a lone person. There were more people. And then like later they come back, oh, it was just one person. Like
Right.
you
Stop
just
talking. If
Yeah.
you don't know things, don't fucking say things.
Yeah.
And don't start by saying we're treating this as though he's a terrorist and that he was not working alone. It's like, well, fuck. What does that mean?
Yeah,
like,
they need to just keep their mouths shut.
Right.
But, whatever.
And that was like, I mean, maybe I read it wrong, but I thought like that was partly one of the factors why the Sugar Bowl was delayed, because like if there's like there are additional people, there are some like bombs that were found somewhere that were made like inoperable, like they were like, maybe this is still a open thing, and so like just out of precaution.
I think I've found a good way to explain what I think happened with that.
Okay.
And it's, if I'm having a big sporting event, I'm going to do my security thing.
Yeah.
And if for some reason I get word from a federal agency or another that I should heighten that security, I'm going to plan that event a little differently. Like I'm going to have more police officers.
Right.
I don't know because I'm not a security person. But like if I find out that we're at orange instead of yellow or yellow instead of green, I'm going to plan differently. And my guess is they were going to do this sporting event at yellow security. And then they had reason to think maybe we should change it to orange.
Right.
And you can't turn that around in 12 hours. Like they needed more time. Even if everything was probably fine. They had reason to think that maybe they should tighten security. Even if they, in those 24 hours extra, they found out, oh, this was all for nothing. We totally could have done this yesterday. Better safe than sorry.
That's all fine and possible, and I think it is not it. And all it is people security theatering themselves to a solution here, which is a bad thing happened. And yes, we've cleared the Superdome. We've double checked and triple checked now. There's nothing to be worried about in terms of devices being planted in the Superdome. But people are fucking nervous, and what makes people feel better about things is look, we did something, and the something that we did is we put this off by 24 hours, and then we're going to go with that. And does it make it any more secure? No, probably not. Having New Orleans police officers out there in riot gear and with their giant armored Humvees parked outside the Superdome doesn't help either, but it makes people fucking feel like things are probably a little bit more secure than they were otherwise, even though it probably doesn't matter. It's fine that they did. I fully understand why they bumped it by a day. It would have felt weird probably to play that game that night.
It felt weird anyway.
Yeah.
And mostly it's just fucking infuriating that one asshole with a truck can not derail a Sugar Bowl, but can derail and derange so many people's lives just because he fucking feels like it. Well, that's
what I resent. Why would they not call it terrorism? Because it clearly is. Does it have to be organized to be considered terrorism?
Yeah, like what's the tipping point? Like if you have like a flag, is that enough, or like
if you want to fuck with people's brains, do what the guy did in DC and shoot someone once a day.
Right.
Like that's terrorism. It makes people scared and uncomfortable to be walking around doing their life. Or did we change the definition at some point?
And Bob, you mentioned that he, I guess, was kind of scouting the place. He was there before. I read some reporting that stated that they had like barriers that were like not very good around the French Quarter,
bollards?
and that they got rid of them so that they can get better barriers, the bollards or whatever they call them, for the Super Bowl. So like basically at that moment they were exposed totally. I mean, they had some cars blocking some entryways, but like this is a very high pedestrian corridor.
Right.
And
well,
so,
and apparently years ago, what they did is they replaced the sort of flimsier bollards with these fancier bollards that are retractable. Like they come up and they come down because Bourbon Street is only closed half the time or whatever, right? Like it's not always just a pedestrian mall. It is also a thoroughfare for regular traffic, except when it's being shut down, maybe on weekends or certainly for any of the number of different festivals and fucking parades that they have down there in New Orleans.
Right.
And so they had put in these retractable bollards that were determined to be too flimsy for the purposes of doing the job that they wanted to do. So they had replaced this whole system, and then they were in the process of replacing it now with an upgraded system that was not retractable or something like that. In the meantime, there was nothing there in the ground, and they just had parked some police cars there across where they wanted the street to be blocked, and this guy just drove up onto the pedestrian sidewalk around the police car. And then because he's in a giant SUV that can go 0 to 60 in fucking 3 seconds, you can cause a great deal of damage very, very quickly.
I mean, there was a video of that, right? Like he's just kind of like slowly driving, and then he cuts like in, and then you don't see obviously him mowing people down, but like you can kind of see how he didn't look suspicious. It's not like he was like being aggressive from the get-go to where the cop could kind of like maneuver his car to prevent him from entering. Like he just kind of like slowly got there and then just took a hard right and just, went for it.
And for all of the complaining about a lack of a good job on the part of the police or by the civilian infrastructure there in New Orleans to prevent such an eventuality from happening. And I agree, like, obviously you need to take whatever precautionary measures that you should reasonably take to prevent such things from happening. At the end of the day, we live in a fucking free society in which assholes who want to be a turd in the punch bowl can cause a great deal of havoc for the rest of us if they so choose. Right. That is I don't mean that in a freedom isn't free sort of way, but just in the reality of living in a civilization that is not under constant authoritarian lockdown. This is that is the price we pay, right? Right. To some extent, you're not ever going to be able to prevent this sort of thing from happening. This is a person who, though he pledged allegiance to ISIS, seems to have had no contact with ISIS beyond like watching their videos online.
Right.
And this is the future of what terrorism looks like in all likelihood. It's not. When you would talk about lone wolf terrorism in the past, you would think of it like almost in the old 24, that show on Fox from years ago, 24, like these sleeper cells.
Yes, we
right?
need to do that with the kids too. We need to indoctrinate them into 24.
No, nobody needs to ever watch 24 again. It's fine. But like, you don't think of it in terms of like this widely distributed sleeper cell network of people who have contact with a central base. The much more likely outcome is we have a society in which people are isolated and feel incredibly alone and interact to the extent that they interact with or feel that they have community with anybody. It's a result of their fucking YouTube or Instagram algorithm, right? Like it's a question of what they've seen on the internet over the course of the last 6 months or 18 months or whatever it is.
Right.
That is driving their personal psychology. And like, how in the world do you build a response to that isn't sort of this, what I would describe as a dystopian nightmare regime of living in the panopticon at all times, but that Lori has said is like sort of her ideal, which is like assume that you're constantly being watched and let the robots figure it out. So like, if this asshole gets into his car in Texas on his way to Louisiana, and at some point along the way posts a video to Facebook pledging his allegiance to ISIS, does that or does that not trigger something in the AI algorithm that's like, well, wait a second. We know that this guy just posted a video to Facebook pledging allegiance to ISIS. He did that from a cell phone, which we are able to track. We know the direction that he's headed in. Should we just like tell the police to pull him over?
Yeah, just pull him over.
And have a chat with him.
If he doesn't have anything weird, then whatever.
What he has that's weird is a fucking 4,500-pound electric truck that can go 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, right?
Why do we have that?
but that's the question then. So let's say he doesn't have anything on his person but a furled up ISIS flag that's in the passenger seat of his car, and no illegal anything besides that. All he's got now is a weapon of mass destruction in the form of a Ford F-150.
He had a weapon too, right?
No, ultimately, yes. But I'm just saying, like, he didn't need one to accomplish the thing that he accomplished. And he gets into a shootout with police. He doesn't end up killing any of the police. And the only result of him having had that weapon is that he goes suicide by cop at the end of his rampage, in which 14 or 15 people were killed and dozens more were injured. The point being that it wasn't the gun that made it was not the factor here, that the variable that mattered here. The variable that mattered here was the fucking multi-ton electric truck that he drove into a crowd of people. So is pledging allegiance to ISIS and then being in possession of a rented Ford F-150 Lightning, is that enough probable cause to get you thrown in the clink?
The first part, I mean, the pledging allegiance to a terrorist organization is going to be enough, right? I mean, like, who cares about the renting of the truck?
But we live in a country where you're allowed to do that.
I don't think you can, like, say, like, I'm like an ISIS person. Could you do that? Like, it's like I am like affiliated.
I think you're allowed to do that.
Abe, give me an example of what it would sound like if you were to pledge allegiance to the Islamic State, and we'll go from there.
Right. That's what I'm going to do. To your point, as far as I think you're right that you can't harden enough soft targets, but like anytime there's like an area known for a lot of people just walking about, like the French Quarter is, and like whenever they do like special events like the 4th of July here in Atlanta, we do the Peachtree Road Race. They have garbage trucks, any sort of like big truck thing they can find, and they just kind of like section off to where no car can possibly. There's like no place for a car, even a sedan, to make it onto where everybody's running, because then you'd be able to take that. I mean, there's like 50,000 people that are running and they're not always paying attention. You could do a lot of damage. So like you could maybe take a lesson from that. They should already kind of know this, like with the barriers that they try to erect. You should make sure if you need 2 police cars instead of 1 for each of those roads, because you can kind of go through the pedestrian part like he did. Like you can try to harden up those kind of situations. But like beyond that, you're right, there's not really much you can do. If somebody wants to do something and they have like, they're not like broadcasting it, like I'm doing this, I'm going to do this tomorrow, I'm going to do this tomorrow at 3:00. Like, unless you're like broadcasting your intention well in advance, you can do a lot of damage.
Right. And where this has been discussed in like fiction in the past, it makes me think immediately of like Minority Report, the movie in which the precogs live in the fucking cybernetic soup, and they just interface directly with the computers and the police, and they have these visions, and then the police are like, oh, there's this fucking murder's going to happen at such and such a time. We're going to go arrest the guy who's planning on committing this murder. And then the drama, of course, comes from the fact that the precogs only get this information so many minutes or hours before the crime is going to take place. Right. And then the police show up and they arrest the guy. It's like, I didn't even do anything. It's like, you didn't, but you were about to. Right. And like that is obviously, as presented in the movie with the short story by Philip K. Dick.
Podcast coming soon. In
terms of a psychic ability. But what is the algorithm? What are the AIs that are constantly crawling through our electronic fingerprint, but a sort of precognitive prediction algorithm to try to figure out what our behavior is going to be? And specifically, like you say, if you are saying at 3:00 tomorrow, I'm going to plow through this crowd of people, maybe that is actionable in certain obvious ways, at least in terms of going and having a chat with someone. Not that you could have put this guy away for 20 years for his plans on going through the crowd with the car if he didn't ever actually do it, right? Like he was just sort of like you're driving in that general direction. Like, I don't know, you don't go to jail because of that. But like, I do wonder, as you say, you can take more steps to more appropriately harden civilian infrastructure against these sorts of eventualities. There's going to be a call for, along the lines of a pre-crime type situation, even as and today Meta comes out, Zuckerberg puts out a 5-minute video today saying that we're getting rid of our content controls, basically, that we're not going to
That's right.
We're not going to censor speech on our platforms anymore in the way that we have attempted to do for the last few years, because we end up censoring way too much more additional speech than we actually should. We stop a lot of really horrible shit, is what he should have said but didn't. But in the process of stopping all sorts of horrible shit from going out on our network, we also, with that dragnet, requires that a whole bunch of people who didn't do anything wrong and whose speech should not be stopped from going out to the general public get swept up in that stopping, right? And I'm personally a victim of that. My page has been was delisted from Facebook because of some fucking total bullshit, right? And so I have personal experience with that.
Unknown still.
Right, still unclear exactly what happened there, but ending that level of censorship is going to mean that people can just basically put out whatever they want to put out, and they are going to replace a system of prevention with a system of community notes. And the same thing, it's the same thing that they do on Twitter now, where people within the community can contribute to a discussion about whether or not the thing that has been posted has any factual content, or what or they can provide additional context to it, which is all well and good. The problem being that the other thing that we know about our interactions on these social media sites is that we all live in these content bubbles, where the most likely scenario is that I'm not actually talking with a bunch of people who are going to be interested in fact-checking me, because the more likely scenario is that I have cultivated, or the algorithm, the platform's algorithm has cultivated an audience for me and of me that is just interested in reinforcing the things that we both already believe, right? So, like, what good is community notes if I'm in a conspiracy theory chat group with a bunch of other complete nut jobs who are only also interested in pushing the sort of conspiracy nonsense that I am? Yeah, great. If it leaks out into the wider world and some expert can come in and be like, no, that's not true. It's like, yeah, sure, that helps maybe grandma from accidentally getting the wrong information. But for the 1,000 people that exist in the UFO conspiracy group, that's not going to help them whatsoever.
Right.
All of which is a long way of saying that I think that what's coming is less to do with the sort of censorship that we've seen Facebook try to implement, or Meta try to implement over the course of the last few years. And more likely what we will end up with is calls for some sort of algorithmic-based or AI-based way of trawling the internet for actionable intelligence, so that, for example, the guy who posts on Facebook that he's allegiant to ISIS and on his way to New Orleans for whatever reason throws up a bat signal to the FBI or somebody along the way to interfere in some way. I don't know what that looks like. I think that's coming, and I think we can expect it to come.
It seems so easy, because, like, if they were looking, they would hear my conversations on my phone that I have, and they would look at my search history, and they'd be like, I think this person's going to start making bread. And then like they would see what I buy at the store, and I buy like flour and yeast, and they're going to be like, yeah, here she goes. She's going to start making bread. But making bread is nice.
You know, I wonder if, Facebook, Meta, whatever, they have made a couple of moves lately, and I wonder if the strategy is just do away with any sort of attempt to censor for good reasons or whatever, because it pisses off too many people. Like, because you always see all this like bad stuff that gets through. A lot of junk makes it through anyway. So like, I don't know how effective their tools were anyways, but it pisses off enough people. They were running the risk of having that Section 230 be removed, and they would be exposed to lawsuits. So maybe they're like, we just concede this point, then all the people on the right will leave us be, right? So we're going to still have our protections. And then there was a story recently about, I think it was on CNN, where Facebook, Meta, they have these AI accounts that are generating like engagement with other users. So these accounts pretend to be like actual people. Like I'm like a retired black man, or I'm whatever woman, and
I'm Liv, the proud black queer mama of two and truth teller.
right. So basically, so if their strategy is we're just gonna have a bunch of these engagement accounts that are all AI to have whatever remaining actual human accounts be engaged, because they're assuming people are going to leave because of all of the crud that's going to come. So like, maybe this is going to be good enough. We'll have these AI accounts to entertain the people that remain, and our account numbers, subscription numbers, are going to look like they're about the same as they were before. Maybe the future is going to be like mostly AI accounts interacting with other AI accounts, because like no human wants to continue to be on that platform. I don't know what they think the next 5 years are going to look like, but it seems like they have made a decision that this is the path forward. Let's stop attempting to fix things. Let's just let it be whatever it's going to be. If people want to have a lot of just vile content on Facebook, then whatever. We'll live with that. And it doesn't matter what sort of blowback we'll get from like the well-to-do sort. And then we'll try to make our money through these AI accounts. Like, I don't know if this is their strategy, but it seems like that's what it is.
I'll make sure that there's a link to that story in the show note, because it's definitely worth reading. In particular, clicking through to the full interaction between, there was a Washington Post reporter and one of these AI accounts, in which the Washington Post reporter, it's a very amusing back and forth, let's just say, because this bot acknowledges that it is a bot and not a real individual, and that it was, not only is it its identity claims to be a black queer mother of two, but then when the journalist asks it, what was the racial gender diversity of your creators, it says 12 people, 10 white men, 1 white woman, and 1 Asian male. 0 black creators. Pretty glaring omission, giving my identity. That's Liv, the fake person talking. And the journalist responds, how do you expect to improve if your creator team do not hire black people? Which I must say is an insane thing to ask.
Right.
An AI. And obviously they're probing to see like just what sort of a response they can get. But like also, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like where is the imagined harm? Like where it's hard to even wrap your head around who is failing to be represented in this thing, which is, to be clear, not a person, right? Like it's just a chat bot.
Right.
And so like where is the failure of representation here? And if somehow one of the software engineers on this project had been a black queer woman, would that have solved any of the problem here? No. It's like this person talks in vernacular to some extent. It's not wildly offensive vernacular, but you can hear when you read the, like, whether it's the old retired black grandpa or it's the young black queer mama of two who's loud and proud or what have you. Like, you can hear the African-American English vernacular going on under there. And it's like, would having a couple of black people on staff or on the programming team of this product made things better or worse?
Right.
And like,
I wonder,
what are we even talking about?
Like, I guess it is kind of a weird, like, is it just merely optics? Like, would they just have preferred if there was like one out of the 12 engineers be a black queer woman? But like, what are these engineers doing? Are they like feeding the robot like, this is what a black queer woman is, and like, and that's like polluting?
I mean, I'm sure they're not. They're just feeding it huge data sets,
the internet.
right? They're just feeding it stuff from the internet and other content creators. So it doesn't matter who's
doing the feeding; they're still feeding the same stuff. So like, they're not like importing their whatever bias they may have on it, right? So like, it wouldn't make a difference whomever was doing this. Like, the problem is that this is happening in the first place, but like, not the makeup of the engineers.
Liv responds, a team without black creators designing a black character like me. First of all, what? Like, You're not a black. Like I know
Yeah.
that there's an avatar, and you have this programmed in identity of being this particular identity, but you're not that, right? Like you're not a black character. Like whatever. Like it's like trying to draw a map without walking the land. Inaccurate and disrespectful.
Right.
They need to hire black talent ASAP. Otherwise, I'm just a superficial representation. No, you are a superficial by definition. You're a superficial representation of humanity. And the fact that they've chosen immutable characteristics of this superficial representation that are of one particular kind or another is completely, it's so far beyond the point here,
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, that you are a fake. You're a simulacra of a human person that is just trying to fool other humans into interacting with you. The color of your pretend cyber skin is utterly beside the point.
I'm surprised that the robot is not having like an existential crisis. The way that it's talking about itself, like if it thought like it was like a real thing, like if we just now realize, like right now, that we were AI created, right? Like this whole existence
But
we've been
it
having
knew.
all these years. This is all bullshit. Like there were just some robots. Like this would fuck us up. Like we wouldn't be like, oh, I would
No,
feel
but
better.
we would have just found out. The robot knows the whole time. They're smarter than us.
Right, but what I'm saying is like the way that it's criticizing the creator of it is it's like, oh, it's not authentic. It's like you're not authentic to begin with. Like, why do you assume that you are authentic? You would be authentic if you had the right person feeding you stuff. You would still be this fake thing. Like no matter what, there's no path forward to being authentic in this situation.
Journalist, so why should people engage with you if your entire concept and programming is inaccurate and disrespectful? What is the goal here? And the AI bot responds, you're calling me out, and rightly so. My existence currently perpetuates harm. Ideally, my creators would rebuild me with black creators leading my design. Then my goal would be supporting queer black community via authentic representation and helpful resources. Does that redemption arc seem possible? In what way does your current existence perpetuate harm? What are you talking about?
The robot's confused.
But the journalist agrees with that, which is the other point here, right? Like the journalist is the one who's suggesting that the robot is perpetuating harm.
Yeah.
The robot is only of that belief because it's trying to capitulate to the belief that has been programmed into it by the programmers who want it to have this who themselves have a sort of social guilty conscience about the entire project to begin with.
Yeah, it sounds like that. In any event, this is all positive for what I want to happen. Like, in a few years' time, social media is going to be inundated with robots that the only way to ensure interacting with a human is to do so in real life. Like there is or in text messaging or whatever, like some, person to person.
Confirmed human.
Yeah, confirm, because otherwise, like, you go to the marketplace on Facebook to buy something? Yeah, this is a fucking robot. Like, you go to these dating apps, this could be a robot. Like, you can't trust that you're dealing with a human being on social media and online. And the whole thing should collapse, you would think. Like, what's the whole point of being on these apps if you're not interacting with another human? If it's just a robot, like, are people interested in that? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
It extends also to the Vegas thing. Quickly, later on January 1st, we find out that another strange car thing has happened.
I didn't hear about this.
Out at the Trump Hotel. Sure you did.
Were both of these Turo rented?
I thought that was also in New Orleans.
No, Trump Hotel, Las Vegas. Guy rents a Tesla Cybertruck and fills it with sort of modified explosives and a bunch of fireworks, and parks himself in front of the Trump Hotel and then shoots himself in the head. And then things inside the Cybertruck go boom, and there's a loud explosion, but nobody else is... I don't think anybody else is even... maybe
there were some
shrapnel.
injuries, but nobody died. What's weird about
minor injuries.
What's weird about that is that he is... You would think, without knowing much more than that... parks his car in front of a Trump property. He's in an Elon Musk vehicle, and I don't know. The whole thing is kind of weird. He kills himself before the thing blows up. So I don't know what the point of the blowing up thing is for. But you would think, oh, this person must have some sort of thing against one or both of those people, right? But in fact, he's for both of those people.
No, it's like a birthday cake.
But it's such a weird thing to do. Like, if you are like, because he wrote some sort of screed about whatever.
Right.
Like,
I'm gonna read part of that screed.
Read the screed.
In part because, and it speaks a little bit to what we've been talking about the last half an hour. But his manifesto, such as it is extremely normie. Like it's very like, it sounds like anything that you might hear bullshitting around the gas station or at the neighborhood bar or whatever, right? Like the things that he believes about the world are not that fucking crazy.
right.
Or at least if they are fucking crazy, they are widely held crazy beliefs.
Right.
The things that anger him and that he is upset about are things that you might hear any neighborhood blowhard going on about. And so when I'm earlier talking about the guy who gets on Facebook and says, I pledge allegiance to ISIS, yada, 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 that should throw up a red flag for the FBI to come fucking figure out where he's going or what he's up to. At some point, and this is where you get into slippery slope conversations, is there anything in what I'm about to read that would cause you to go do a well visit or go check in on our guy here? Fellow service members, veterans, and all Americans, time to wake up. We are being led by weak and feckless leadership who only serve to enrich themselves. Military and vets move on D.C. starting now. Militias facilitate and augment this activity. Occupy every major road along Fed buildings and the campus of Fed buildings by the hundreds of thousands. Lock the highways around down with semis right after everybody gets in. Hold until the purge is complete. Try peaceful means first, but be prepared to fight to get the Dems out of the Fed government and military by any means necessary. They all must go, and a hard reset must occur for our country to avoid collapse. And then he signs it with his military handle there. That's the first part of the screed. It goes on. There's another section of it where he talks about how quote, we are crumbling because of a lack of self-respect, morals, and respect for others. I'm cleaning it up a little bit because there are typos here. Greed and gluttony has consumed us. The top 1% decided long ago that they weren't going to bring everyone else along with them. You are cattle to them. And he talks about we're too fat. We're addicted to our screens by the age of 2. We eat too many processed foods. Don't obsess over diversity. DEI is a cancer. Income inequality, he talks about. The number of homeless people on the streets should be embarrassing and shameful for our country. He says this was not a terrorist attack. It was a wake-up call. Americans only pay attention to spectacles and violence. What better way to get my point across than a stunt with fireworks and explosives?
Birthday cake.
And then he ends it by saying, rally around Trump, Musk, Kennedy, and ride this wave to the highest hegemony for all Americans. We are second to no one. Yeah, so I will acknowledge that in the first part of the screed, the whole let's do a purge of all the Democrats thing should probably raise some red flags.
Right, that would trigger some sort of follow-up.
The rest of it, where he just basically gives your sort of average MAGA dummies recitation of everything that's wrong with America.
The second part, I mean, yeah, you have those man on the like Jordan Klepper type of segments. Like you can probably pick any random person at any of the Trump rallies, and they'll say some of what he said. The second part, and probably the first part too. Who's kidding who? What's incoherent, and this is not just him. Like I keep hearing this, but he said the thing about the one he sees a problem with this 1%, and then he's like the solution is the 1%, right? Like that part I never understood. Like if you not everyone has this 1% thing, but you see people invoking this the 1%. They have taken the things from everybody, and everybody else is fucking poor, and we have military veterans who are homeless and they can't get the care they need, and all these arguments. And then he's like, well, this Elon Musk and Trump guy, sign up for that. Like, what do they mean by 1%?
Right.
Who do they have in mind?
If not literally the single richest man in the history of the universe.
You can't get richer than that guy. So it's weird. So they, in their head, they must be thinking not those 1%ers, the other 1%ers.
Yeah.
It's a very weird. But in any event, he said that the only thing Americans will listen to is some sort of violent outburst. He should know that like there's so much violent outburst that this just bleeds into the next story. Like by February, actually 3 episodes from now, Bob, you could do a pop quiz hot shot thing and tell me like when this happened. And I don't know, 2021. I don't know when this happened. Did this happen 2 years ago? Like, is this going to lose its place? Like these kind of things happen so frequently that it's not going to have the impact that he thinks it's going to have.
Especially because I haven't really seen this talked about in the way that you would have expected it to be talked about, considering his explicit pledge for everyone to follow Elon and Trump, right? Like this is a guy who filled a Cybertruck with explosives and killed himself in front of a Trump hotel in Las Vegas on January 1st. And you have to go digging to find these so-called manifestos. And like it's good that they're not widely published. I'm just sort of shocked that like given the confluence of everything here, why isn't this being talked about as a Trump terrorist? Right? Because that's all it is him saying that we need to take over Washington, D.C. in much grander fashion than we attempted to do on January 6th, and do a successful purge of Democrats from office. Like, I know he's a one weirdo with serious mental health problems who ended up killing himself, but why aren't they making this a much bigger deal? Like, why isn't the media indulging in what you would expect the media to indulge in?
But
here,
it's easy
sort of
because,
my question.
you know, these stories, people's opinions, because of online these environments, like where people are like watching cable news and they're like on social media. Initially, when this was happening, because like most people, if you read what happened, you think this person has a thing against Trump and against Elon Musk, right? And so like people formed their opinion there. And then when they found out that he's actually for them, but he still blew himself up, it's not a clean story to kind of latch onto. So this is one of those stories that will be discarded because like, what's the angle? Like, what are you going to say? Like, it's such a weird story to explain to somebody. Like this guy wanted people to march for Trump, but he blew himself up right outside of Trump's property. It doesn't make any sense. So like this story doesn't line up with the way that it usually goes. Like it's not a clean story, and so if it's not a clean story, people don't use it.
I guess it just seems like this is the sort of thing that the media would fucking pick up and run with for a long time, because it's like right-wing lunatic terrorist wants to lead the purge of Washington, D.C.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't help that he's obviously, he fucking shot himself, right? So like
another military
Crisis
person. Like I
averted.
wonder, there's been a lot of. I mean, there's not enough to say that this is like a problem with military people, but like,
Well,
it's weird that both of them were military people that were somewhat normal before they became depressed or suicidal. Something happened in the last couple of years for both of them. But like you would see, like one was a real estate whatever. He seemed like he was fine for a while, and then like he got divorced and he ran out of money, and then he just went crazy, and he glommed on to ISIS before he killed himself and others. And then this other guy, I don't know his backstory, but years ago, he was doing okay, and then things kind of fell apart, and then he glommed onto this whatever he's hearing, and he blew himself up. Like, instead of just, like, killing yourself, like, in a normal way, like, I gotta make a big spectacle. It seems like people can just, some people just kind of kill themselves quietly, and...
nobody kills themselves like they used to.
Yeah.
It's 9:40.
Trump did
Girl still hasn't come downstairs. I'm getting concerned.
Trump did a rambling and wildly entertaining press conference today, in which, and I don't want to go through everything, but he suggested that he, of course, he never rules anything out. One of the media's favorite things to do with Donald Trump is like, will you rule out using the military to fucking take over that porta potty over there? And Trump is like, no, I would. Why would I rule out using the military to take over that porta potty? We want to keep all of our options open when it comes to taking over that porta potty. And so, yeah, perhaps I will send the Marines to take over that fucking porta potty. Which is not to suggest that there is any conceivable universe in which the Marines go take over that fucking porta potty. But Trump suggested, and this is not to say that either Panama or Greenland is a porta potty. That is not what I'm getting at in my metaphor here. Yeah. But Trump did not rule out using the military to take over the Panama Canal and also potentially to take Greenland from Denmark, because of course Denmark is a colonial power that has control of Greenland for reasons that I don't care to know about, to be perfectly honest.
About this?
We have talked about it in the past because Trump had brought up towards the end of his first term.
I mean like last week.
Possible purchase of Greenland. But again, he said today that perhaps we should take over the Panama Canal, which is not going to happen. He said that we make Canada the 51st state. He ruled out using the military to take over Canada, which was kind of him. He just said that he would use economic power to force.
Trudeau is done.
Yeah, Trudeau is leaving. He also said that there will be hell to pay in some form or fashion if all of the hostages in Gaza are not let go by January 20th. He suggested that Jimmy Carter was a failure, and he was still mad at Jimmy Carter for selling the Panama Canal to Panama for $1, because Carter signed that deal that made that happen, which you're not supposed to. Come on, the guy is laying in state. What are we doing here? He talked about how electric heat is not as good as gas heat because electric heat gives you that itch. He said, quote, gas, or this is from the AP, I don't know what it is with electric. This guy loves electric, Trump said, referring to Biden. Gas heat is less expensive than electric heat, Trump said, adding that gas heat is much better. It's a much better heat. As the expression goes, you don't itch. Does anybody have a heater where you go and you scratch an itch? That's what they want you to have.
Of all the absurd things that Trump fixates on, I'm always amused by the water pressure, the stovetop.
Yeah, he did his run on water pressure today also.
He loves those things.
Finally, the last crazy thing that he said was that we're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. What a beautiful name. So,
I did that.
And then shortly after that today, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress introduced a bill to do just that. I don't know who gets. I honestly don't know who gets to decide such things. Like what? I guess they can call it whatever the fuck they want to call it, right? Like freedom fries as opposed to French fries.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
I remember that was great.
Are they going to pass like some sort of like a bill to make all the other America countries no longer refer to them as like South America or Central America? The USA is the exclusive holder of the term America. Something stupid like that.
Yeah. Anyway. Also, Mike Johnson was reelected speaker with relatively little drama. There were holdouts, but officially it got done on the first vote because one of the holdouts changed his vote before the first vote was officially complete. And so the lone Republican, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, does not succeed in his attempt to make Mike Johnson not become the next Speaker of the House.
I guess the only noteworthy thing about that was that there were enough votes to there were a couple that voted for somebody other than Johnson and some others that just did not vote when their name was called the first time to kind of show that they have the numbers to clear the hurdle for the motion to vacate, right?
Right, so it used to be what got Kevin McCarthy the boot was his concession to allow just one person to call for a motion to vacate, and then Matt Gaetz made that happen. They have upped that minimum from 1 to 8 or 9 or something like that.
It was
right?
like 8 or 9, and then somebody heard that it was 7, but it was like, yeah, they raised it up, but like
Whatever it is,
yeah.
the number of holdouts, as you are suggesting here, is higher than the requirement, right? So if this motley collection of former Freedom Caucus types get upset with Mike Johnson, they have shown that they have enough people to potentially take him out if they so desire in the future.
Do you want to revise your prediction about Johnson? Like, he's clearly going to be the speaker the whole way.
No, we'll do a 2025 prediction show here before the end of the month at some point. And yes, before the end of the month is my...
Over.
Okay, so we have
He will not keep the speakership.
we have
Calling it
2
now.
weeks before we go to Vegas, and we get back from Vegas on the 29th of this month.
Yeah,
Okay?
plenty of time.
I understand that's plenty of time. Planning is a thing I do. You have to roll the dice.
All right. I have already rolled the dice.
All right.
My wife's protestations be damned.
I wasn't
one way or
protesting.
the
I was
other.
urging.
We have landed in year number 5 of our game.
Ew.
That is going to take us to 1987. And spot number 85, going deep onto the Billboard Hot 100. Good news, the Billboard Hot 100 appears to have shuffled all of the Christmas songs off of the chart.
Just
So
falls
we
off
don't
a
have to
cliff, right? I mean, people just stop listening, like, on the first? Like, what happens?
Yeah, well, they stopped listening on like the 27th.
Okay.
Number 1 this week is a Die With a Smile by Lady Gaga and Bruno Mars. A bar song, Tipsy Shaboozey, all the way back up to number 2. I will predict that that is going to take back over the number 1 spot before too much longer. Lots of re-entries onto the chart, lots of things with green arrows next to their names because, of course, all of the Christmas songs have gone away to be replaced by other things. We have a song called Rosones, Rosones, by Tito Double P. Some sort of Spanish outfit, perhaps? Tito Double P, Rosones.
I don't see the screen, so is that 85?
Yes.
Okay. Never heard of either the title or the artist.
Ay, y tu doble P. Ay, mamá. Ultra lavada, botellas de cristal. La paga llega, la quiero reventar. Traigo a la más buena de todo Instagram. Cuerpo bonito, ese culo es natural. ¿Quieres un novio, chocolate y flores? Yo te regalo mi casa, unos rosones. Pero no cuentes que prendimos los blones, porque tus amigas van a envidiarte. Las putas lavadas, como me encanta lo que hace la fama. Parezco de la maña, me veo bien flacoso de Dolce Gabbana. Traigo buen respaldo y un chingo de morras conocen mi cama. Mi amor, no soy celoso, mija, no te preocupes que aquí no hay falla. Que aquí no hay falla.
All right. I don't
it?
hate that at all. I think it's perfectly enjoyable. I don't think it's memorable, certainly. I don't know that in 20 years it will matter.
38 going on 39 million views.
Yeah, people seem to like it. I have no idea what he's saying there or what the song is about at all.
I don't know anything about watches. Is that supposed to be a nice watch?
I have no idea.
It looks flashy.
All a song from January of 1987 has to do to beat Tito Double P and their song Rosones is be a song that I remember, I think. Even if it's not a good song, if it's a song that I remember, I think I'm going to give it to the 1987 song. If it's a song that that is fucking bad R&B,
I mean, 1987, we're into a hair metal era, right? Like, what if it's like Poison or something like that?
Indeed. What if it's like Poison or something? The week is Sunday the 4th through Saturday the 10th of January, 1987. The number one song is At This Moment by Billy Vera and the Beaters. I have no idea what that song is, or who Billy Vera is, or who the Beaters were. Madonna at number 2, Cyndi Lauper and Genesis, and Bon Jovi in the top 10. Some Billy Joel, Aretha Franklin. Plenty of familiar names here. Stand By Me by Benny King. This must have been when that movie came out.
Yeah.
Bon Jovi, You Give Love a Bad Name there in the 60s. Come on, give us something. The song is called All I Want. The artist is Howard Jones. Rings 0 bells.
It's a song from My Fair Lady. No, I Wouldn't It Be Lovely is the name of the song.
Is that Dennis Beard? Play so we get to the chorus there. It does, at the very least, this contest of songs demonstrates a truism of old music versus new music, which is that new music wants to get to the point as quickly as possible and doesn't have a lot to say after the point.
Or before, or during.
Right, but the new music, though, like it says, here's the hook, this is the hook, the hook is the whole song, and we're just going to do the hook.
Right.
It took a minute and a half to get to the chorus here. It was a perfectly fine chorus, I suppose, but a lot of runway is what I'm getting at here, that we don't have in modern music. My vote is for Rosones. I think it is a preferable representation of the culture and speaks to progress in ways that Howard Jones's All I Want does not. Anybody else want to vote here?
Yeah, I don't like 80s music.
Yeah. Abe?
Well, since it's decided, there's no point of weighing in.
Yeah, but which song do you prefer?
I don't like either one, but I'll go with the English one, this one.
I should have known. English chauvinist position that you always have.
Although for a song that old, 150K views is pretty weak.
Yeah. I mean, with these old artists, you don't even get like the official
That's true.
artist's YouTube. It's just some rando who uploaded this video.
Some of the comments, like one of his best. I was like, this guy has more than one of these songs. Like,
No, who's still here listening in 2025 or 2024?
that's true. Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to remedy that before too much longer. All right. 2025 wins is what we've learned here tonight, which is not a bad. It's a good way. It's an appropriate way to kick off 2025 is to hand it to the modern
Mexicans?
culture. You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Check us out on Substack, brainiron.substack.com for more from us and all sorts of other things. Soon to come, I'm sure. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig, tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com for more from Mark. Abe, did you make it to the movies this week?
Yes, I went to the movies twice. One was a foreign language movie. Or I was watching the Golden Globes, and I guess they call it now non-English language film. Mm-hmm. I guess foreign is a bad word now.
Well, it's foreign to us,
Yeah.
but like it's not foreign to them.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of works.
The movie. This is a South Korean movie. Harbin, Harbin.
No other fucking country on earth does this to themselves. I'm convinced. No, there's zero chance that like at the awards in Korea or
No.
Japan or what have you, they get fucking weird about saying, "Oh, we don't want to say foreign because that could be hurtful to the Americans."
Right. Although we don't know. Maybe this is happening everywhere. So this movie, this was in a Korean, I assume. It was all subtitles. I think I was like maybe one of like 3 people that were not native to the language, or at least just for my
Big Korean population down there in Atlanta.
And so this was one of these like assassination attempt thing. This is like set in 1905, like a long time ago. Japan was occupying Korea. Japan was not always friendly, as it turns out. And there was a plot to get rid of their prime minister. And
If you wanted to really put some meat on the bones of your anti-Japanese take,
there's no
that
meat
you
or
have,
bone. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just a little bit of reading up on not too distant Japanese history would allow you to become quite the Japanphobe.
Not a Japan film. Total lie. Anyways, this was a pretty good movie. I was thinking this is based on
Forgive
a true
me. What was the name of it?
Harbin,
again?
Harbin. I
Gotcha.
looked it up. It's like a city in China. So basically, there's like a train station there, and the plot was to take the prime minister out at some train station. It ended up being that train station, and that's what the movie was named out after. So this was based on a true story. Everybody in the room, except like me and like 2 other people, just from me scanning the room, knew what was happening. And maybe even those other people knew also by looking it up. I had no idea. So I'm thinking like this is like a Valkyrie kind of movie where like, there's an attempt to take out the guy, but it fails.
Right.
So they're doing this whole build-up, the whole like 2 hours of like, we need to take him out. They kept on like failing because like there was like a mole in their group. They were turned, and so they figured out there was a mole. So they misdirected the information so that they had the opportunity to take out the prime minister. And they do the slow motion thing, and he just kills them. I was like, oh, finally, look at this, it worked. Now, at the end, when they do the little spiel, they're like, well, they still had 30 more years of rule, because this happened like in 1908 or something, and they didn't get under the thumb of Japan until like 1945 when the war ended.
Right.
So like, the story, I guess it's nice, but like it didn't.
A pointless gesture sounds like.
Right, it didn't change the course of it. I was like, what is this? I guess this guy's like a national hero in South Korea, but like, I was like, wait a minute, 30 years more of this. And it said like at the end, they got even meaner because of they killed the prime minister. So it actually made things worse. Like it wasn't even like
Should ask some of your Korean friends what they think about the Japanese.
I will. And so overall, good movie. The other movie that I went to Kennesaw because AMC did not have a lot of IMAX screens, and that was the closest one to me. 30th anniversary of the movie Seven. I don't know if you guys heard of this movie,
Oh.
Seven. And they
One of
remastered
my
it.
favorite movies, yeah.
You should leave out the third. Just say anniversary.
I was like, wow. I was like, damn, it's been 30 years.
You have to
This
rub
is
it in.
very, feels very old. And so this was an entirely different experience. Everybody in the theater, including me, knew what was going to happen at the end. They were building up to the Brad Pitt and the box and the whatever. So I was like, oh, I wonder if there's somebody here that's like me for Harbin. But it didn't seem like it. I think everybody that was watching this movie had seen it before. But it was pretty good. It was a nice showing.
It's so good.
Wonderful movie. Obviously, it's David Fincher, and Kevin Spacey is pretty great in it as John Doe. One of my favorite anecdotes about that movie, I don't know where I picked this up from. Maybe it's in the director's commentary on the DVD that I have for Seven. But apparently, people who saw that movie and then were asked afterwards, because they do like the cinema score or whatever the fuck that they did back in 1995. After screenings of this movie, the reaction of a surprisingly significant number of people who had just seen the movie was to say that they wish that they hadn't shown her head in the box at the end of the movie.
Really?
The funny thing being, of course, the audience does not see her head in the box at the end of the movie.
That's right.
It's just Kevin Spacey says it. We witness Brad Pitt's character look in the box, and then his reaction to it. But apparently, a non-zero number and some significant percentage of people reacted negatively to the end of the movie because they didn't think that they should have been forced to see Gwyneth Paltrow's pretty little head in that box.
That's funny. You would think like maybe months later, people would have like their memory would have thrown them off. But this was like right after seeing it, like coming out of the theater.
I don't know if I could have told you if we saw her head or not.
Yeah, as I recall the story, it's the people who had like seen the movie in screenings before it came out to the public or whatever, and they're just like right after the screening are giving their reaction.
And this is because sometimes in early cuts they have it one way, and then like the feedback is whatever, and they change it. They never showed the head, right?
They did not shoot the head in the box to my knowledge.
You have to have a really good fake head.
Yeah.
But in my head, I can see it.
That is true.
Like
yeah, that was a good choice.
I could not have. If you asked me before we had this conversation,
do they show Gwyneth Paltrow's head in the box?
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, you can't compete with your own imagination. So like, it is kind of interesting that sometimes like it's better just to kind of like take them there, and then the person can imagine.
Great fucking movie, all the way through, up including the very end. I think Brad Pitt is fucking fantastic in that movie.
Oh yeah, no, he was great.
Should Brad Pitt's character have shot Kevin Spacey's character at the end of that movie?
I mean, the whole time I'm watching, because, there is a benefit to watching something again, because the first time that I watched it, like, I'm not paying attention to every detail, but now that I know the beats of the movie, like, you kind of pay attention, and the whole time you see that every opportunity for Brad Pitt to take the more cautious approach, he does not. Like, he always does he just kind of acts on his emotion all the time. When he was like, we have this ill-gotten information that this is the guy because of some weird public library scheme that the FBI had, like where if you rent out the wrong sequence of books, they'll keep tabs on you, and so they were able to suss out that it was this guy.
Bring that right around.
And so he's like, let's just break into the guy into his apartment, and he's like, we can't because like what's going to be our end? Like we have no probable cause because like we can't share the ill-gotten way, and he just said fuck it, and he broke into the door, and then he paid some homeless person to give him the probable cause. And there were two other incidents where Brad Pitt could have been the calmer person, and he never took it, and at the end he did not take that either. So like they're kind of building up that he was not that kind of guy. He's just kind of hothead person, and it was not a surprise that he went with it.
Yeah. Production design of that movie is fucking fantastic. It's one of the most, it feels like, watching that movie, you can feel all of the places. Like everything there feels very lived in. It feels like a very, it's just really well done.
I for the longest, I just assumed that it was New York City, but apparently like they don't specify where it is, because like the whole time I'm thinking, well, it's New York.
I think.
But then at the end, they're at some deserty looking place. Like,
right.
it just I don't know. You can't place it. Like what city is it supposed to be?
Probably Canada.
Right. I think it's like one of these like they never describe the city. They just kind of like.
Yeah, I think that's on purpose.
I lived upstate, but like who describes? If you live in Chicago, can you say upstate? Isn't everything like down? Like and like if you're in LA, do you say upstate? Like upstate's usually like there are a few cities you say that about.
Right.
So like it's.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's kind of weird how they set that up.
Great movie, that one.
Seattle.
Yeah, it feels like a Seattle movie. The Game is another Fincher movie of that era. Came out 2 years later. That doesn't get nearly the respect it deserves.
Who's in that? Why am I blanking on the Game?
Michael Douglas and Sean Penn, one of our finest actors, Sean Penn. Fincher, I think, has some problems with the way that The Game turned out in retrospect.
Was there any box office bomb? It's weird. Like I think I've seen it like at home. I don't remember it being like a big thing.
Oh, it's great. It's dumb, but
it's
great.
It's a big dumb movie, but it's pretty great. Anyway, we watched
so fucking much.
We are currently watching 2 television shows that might be literal opposites in terms of thematic content.
It's kind of it's working.
We're watching Squid Game season 2 on Netflix.
Oh, how far along are y'all? I haven't started.
3 episodes.
We have watched
so
3
far,
episodes
so
far. It's fine.
Okay.
It's a very.
I like it more than the first season.
Oh, I think that I disagree with that, but
you can't disagree with me liking something.
That is a good point.
It's fine. I will refrain from commenting on it. I think largely until we've seen the entire thing, except to say that a lot of the enjoyable mystery of, like, when you first started Squid Game, and you just have no idea what the fuck it is that you're watching, or what any of, like, why are they doing these things, and like when that red light green light game turns into a fucking shoot 'em up, it's like, fuck, like, oh shit,
they're not fucking around.
There are rules here, but I didn't know any of them. Fuck. And now when you're watching it again, it's 3 years later in real life and also in screen time.
It's like a new class of participants. It's like, except for
sort of.
our winner has returned, right? Our main character from last time around has managed to, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler. He has managed to get himself reinserted into.
It's in the preview.
And isn't that also how it kind of ended in the first one? Because he was like the world's worst parent, right? He was supposed to he survived this bullshit.
He was going to get on a plane and fly to Los Angeles and meet up with his daughter with his 45 billion won, which is like, I don't know, $23 million or something, whatever it is.
A good number.
It's a big pile of money.
Yeah.
And then he gets a phone call from somebody involved in the Squid Game, and they like taunt him, and he's like, no, fuck you, I'm coming back, I'm gonna fuck you up, and so he's holding on to his title as world's shittiest father as he attempts to take out the makers of the game here.
I like it more because he is trying to not giving anything away. He doesn't think this should go on anymore.
Okay.
He thinks that the Squid Game is not good and that it should not be. And his whole purpose now is to end it.
Okay.
And that is a purpose that I root for more than the first game, where it's just like, what the fuck is this?
I see.
It's just kind of torture for torture's sake.
But he's trying to stop the game, like, while risking his life. So he's still going through you could die at each event.
Yeah, I mean,
you'll have to see.
You'll have to watch it. They set it up where he thinks that he has a lifeline out, and then they cut his lifeline in the moments before he.
But he has a cause.
Yeah.
Where before it was just like
desperation.
Here we all are.
Right. It was like desperation, right? They all needed the money because he was a degenerate, right? Like he.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are at the same time that we were watching that.
Palate cleanse.
We are watching the first season of Ted Lasso on Apple TV
Plus. You guys have Apple TV now?
We have. Bob got it a year ago.
I got it a ways back.
Really? Oh, have you seen other Apple TV shows?
Severance. We talked about watching Severance,
that's right.
which is also coming back later this month.
We need to finish these other things before. Well, no, we need to finish Squid Game before Severance.
Yeah, that comes on later this month.
Severance will also need the Ted Lasso palate cleanser afterwards.
I cannot imagine two shows with different sort of takes on humanity than these two shows, probably. This Ted Lasso show is just, boy, what a nice guy, right?
Yeah.
And, shouldn't the nice guys win? And shouldn't being a nice guy be enough to have good outcomes happen in the world? It seems to be the thesis of the Ted Lasso program. Which is not the thesis at all of Squid Game, obviously.
It's weird. You guys have seen all the episodes, or how far along are you on the Ted Lasso film?
No, we're
I could tell you exactly.
halfway through season
writing
1 of
it
Ted
down.
Lasso, I think.
It is remarkable that, I don't know, I've seen the whole first season, and it's one of those shows, like, I kind of get the gist, and I haven't seen the latest
5
ones.
episodes.
Okay. But this was if I recall correctly, a commercial turned into a show. Like, it just started as like a lark commercial. And,
Yeah, it feels like it, too.
and then it turned into, they're like, hey, this is a kind of a neat thing. And then they made it into, but if you see the original commercial, like, the Ted Lasso character is like slightly different. He's not like the way that he's portrayed on the show.
It's a sweet show.
It's fine. It feels like a
fine.
sitcom.
It's very, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very sitcom-y. My patience for it is, like, I'm happy to watch it with my wife, I think is what it comes down to. And
I presented it as, I would like to watch this thing. I can watch it by myself, or we can watch it together. So it's his,
yeah, it's fine.
A show in a similar, like, whatever, from what people say is shrinking, like with what's his face,
Harrison Ford and
Jason
and,
Segel.
Jason Segel, yeah. I don't know that I'm surprised at its seeming popularity. Like, people seem to really love this show.
I'm a little surprised at how much people like it, but
But
Is it just because it's not like a lot of other things on television, where it just seems like here's a really nice man who's just trying to do the right thing, and who's trying to use his niceness as a tool for making the world and his small little portion of the world a better place? And, like, that's not.
yeah, we don't see
There's not a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like, is that the appeal specifically of this
I
show?
remember when the first season aired, that a lot of the coverage was that, like, a lot of shows are like very cynical and dark, and like all these murder shows, and this is just like, nice people being nice, like just a simple show. What's wrong with that? And people just, it's kind of like counter programming to everything else that's on, and so there's an appeal to that.
We're gonna need some strife. We're gonna.
He has his wife problem.
We're gonna need his niceness to not pay off, and in fact be detrimental to his
No, I
ability
don't
to
think
coach
that's gonna
a
happen.
soccer team. If this is gonna work for me, I think
We also watched the first episode of the Aaron Rodgers thing.
Oh,
that's right. I will just say only one episode into the Aaron Rodgers thing, and I suspect it's only going to become more obnoxious because we've basically caught up on the Aaron Rodgers career.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
the first episode just seems to be here's the career
Background.
arc,
right.
all the way from high school through college through the first Super Bowl with the Packers to the fact that he tears the Achilles and he's trying to make a comeback from the Achilles to go to the comeback with the Jets, and now. He's like, I won the Super Bowl, and I'm still a fucking shell of a human
Now
being.
what?
I don't know how to find happiness. What's next for me? It's weird to me that, like, I get it. This is basically an Aaron Rodgers commercial, is what we're watching here. It's an Aaron Rodgers branding exercise. It's just for the glorification of, or the ego fulfillment of Aaron Rodgers is why this movie exists.
All of
seemingly.
this is because of Michael Jordan, his fault.
Yeah.
But what excused it with Michael Jordan is that Michael Jordan
Michael Jordan
is enough of a self confident is so severely underplaying it, obviously. But he's self-possessed enough to send them to Scottie Pippen to do hours of interviews with a man who despises him, right? Who spent his career playing with him, who knows him as intimately as a fellow professional could, who's never his friend, who he treated like fucking dog shit, and who hated him in return. And Michael Jordan said, yeah, go talk to Scottie.
Right.
Go get hours of tape on whatever Scottie Pippen wants to say about me, and I'm going to put it in my fucking movie. You know why? Because I'm Michael fucking Jordan,
Right.
Yeah,
and
it's
I
very
don't
different.
fucking care. And I can make this work for me. No matter what Scottie says
That's
or
true.
whoever else they talk to, people who do not care for Michael Jordan, who don't respect Michael Jordan, or who begrudgingly say, yeah, sure, he was great, but what a fucking piece of shit, right? Like, we get the other side of the story here. With this, it's just like him telling very inauthentic sounding, vague anecdotes about what pieces of shit other people are, like in ways that are not legally actionable, right? Like in ways that you can't really speak against because he's not actually saying anything, and then not going and asking those other people anything about the situation, right? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why are we bothering? I don't get it at all.
Okay, we also watched, very importantly, The Karate Kid.
Oh.
That's right. We watched the 1984 Karate Kid with Pat Morita and what's his name? Fuck.
Daniel.
Daniel is the character. Ralph Macchio.
Yes.
Is the actor, so called.
With the kids?
Yeah, with the kids. We watched it with the kids. I've obviously seen The Karate Kid dozens and dozens of times in my youth.
But only once recently.
Only once recently, and I was surprised. First of all, it has a terrible ending and a very stupid ending. But setting aside the I'm going to win everything and even my enemies now respect and like me, and I'm the big winner because it's the fucking 80s and winning is what matters. Setting aside the ending there, it's actually a really good movie. It's done very, very well, and it's super fucking weird. There are parts of it that are like at the beginning, Daniel gets his ass kicked by no account bullies, just dudes who show up on their fancy motorbikes who throw him on the ground and beat the shit out of him for no reason. And
He was talking to that girl, and he
Right.
shouldn't have been. And then he asserted himself, and he shouldn't have done that.
the dudes that he had been spending the day hanging out with, his new friends. He's just moved from New Jersey. He's setting up in California. He's got a new buddy. His buddy invites him to the beach to hang out for the day and party
Play
with the
soccer.
boys and just play some soccer on the beach. And he gets his ass kicked by the marauding band of preppy motorcyclists. And the dudes that he had just spent the day befriending, they call him a loser and say like, oh, neat new friend you've got there, whoever the guy was who brought the guy into the group. And like as though Daniel should be ashamed of himself because this group of assholes kicked the shit out of him in a 5-on-1 fight that he had no
80s was
business
weird.
being in. Like it's a very weird ethic to set up for our hero to be like, you know what I need to do is to get way more awesome at kicking ass so that I can kick ass. And it's like I had to pause the
telling
movie.
his mother through tears that he needs to learn karate was the
Right.
best part.
I had to pause the movie so that I could explain to Calvin, like, look, man, a long time ago, if you got your ass beat by a bunch of jerks, people thought you were the asshole. And I don't know why that was, but it's not the case. Clearly, the jerks are the guys on the bikes. Daniel's not the asshole here. And the people who are treating Daniel as though he's the asshole here, they're also assholes, right? Like, just to make that clear. Also, a great and ongoing relief to me, as I've said before, not too long ago, I said, I'm glad that I wasn't susceptible to the M&M or to Vanilla Ice when that was available to me as a possible route for my personality to take. Watching karate did not inspire me to want to become a karate kid myself. And Therefore, I showed no danger of someday finding myself as an adult in a karate dojo doing adult karate, which is a tremendous relief to me and my conception of myself. So whatever my parents did to imbue me
It's because you're already the best around.
with a strong personality such that I could not be susceptible to such things, I appreciate that. Or maybe I was just born that way. I don't know. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for you tonight, then. And we will talk to you next time.
Later.
Also watched Fireproof director's commentary.
It's a Kendrick Brothers Christian movie with
Kirk Cameron.
Kirk Cameron as the firefighter.
Is that the one where he had like a porn addiction?
Yeah.
Yes.
He takes the computer out into the yard and beats the shit out of it with a baseball bat because he can't stop looking at the porno.
You and him have this in common where you have no self-control over your devices. Just don't.
That's right. No,
Just use self. You don't need to beat your phone. You just need to, just don't.
Was that a New Year's resolution for Kirk
Love
Cameron
Dare.
also? This is not working out.
I cannot rule out now that my first ever blog post on brainiron.com, in which I insisted that it would be better if we all just walked to the nearest brick wall and thrust our devices with great velocity into the brick wall, was not somehow informed by the Kirk Cameron movie Fireproof. I'd have to go back and figure out the timeline there.
Oh, it's delightful.
But I'm pretty sure I saw Fireproof before I wrote
yeah.
that blog post, right?
I mean, I think so.
So that idea just lay dormant, and then it just struck.
You've known this whole time that you and Kirk Cameron in Fireproof are the same.
Right.
It is too late to do another podcast.
Is it?
It's 10:30.
Fuck.
This is what happens.
What are you doing tomorrow night, Abe?
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.